Good evening, Des Moines.
Oh, they got the holy cow! That was a
welcome.
Keep talking.
To webcast1live.com. This is Doc and Lefty. This is Lefty, the Doc, and Lefty. Welcome to the show tonight, as always, from 6:30 to 7:30 on Tuesdays in the effervescent studios of webcast1live.com in the Skywalk in downtown Des Moines. I am Lefty, here as always with my main man, the guy who's coming to blow the houses down to those communist pigs and Animal Farm, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche. Doc, what's up?
That's right. Not much, just my weight, not my IQ. We had a little bit of a thing there going on, a little bit of a Frank error. And I think it was just a little bit of confusion. I tried to be your puppet over here. I don't know if it worked that well.
Well, they finally figured out how to get your good looks matched with my golden voice.
Yes, absolutely. And it worked flawlessly, I think.
God doesn't make mistakes, but God was having some fun when he put everything that's coming out of my mouth into this garbage pail of a body.
I'm going to tell you, it is colder in Iowa than it is in Mars right now at this time.
Is that right?
Did you know that? I was looking that up. Just, the Weather Channel has all kinds of weird things out there.
It's amazing. It was 48 degrees, 47 degrees yesterday, I think. And it was
it's I bet you a 60-degree change.
That seems to be the order of the day.
Yeah, you bet.
And I bet our good friend Ed Fallon had some thoughts about what might be causing these radical shifts in the weather on his show.
I'm sure he does. We were talking about that before the show, and I told him I was doing the best I could, running my giant SUV down the road to try to make the weather more hospitable here in Iowa.
Right,
but I'm not sure he appreciated that.
No. Climate is a worldwide thing, and so maybe we're not doing much more than just aggravating everybody else. But we have a big show. It's caucus night here in Iowa. Everybody
we have a phone call.
We have a phone call already? God, we haven't even gotten anything.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say I talked to several people, see if they were call in, give us an update on the caucuses, and already we have one. So
well,
let's
good
put
deal.
Let's put on our headphones and see what we got.
Well, you go ahead because I need to reach for mine.
All right. So who do we have on the line there, Frank? Hello, you're on Doc and Lefty.
Well, good evening. This is Tom Shaw.
Hey, Representative Shaw, super friend of the show.
Well, I had messaged him earlier to see if he was going to be here because I forgot that it was caucus night.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that, too. He said he's going to be out doing a lot of caucus.
Well, Tom, how's it going out there?
Well, my caucus update is it is cold.
When are you guys getting kicked off?
It'll be starting at 7.
Okay.
I'm here in Pocahontas, the city of Pocahontas, the countywide caucus here, and so people are slowly starting to trickle in, and we'll wait and see how good of a turnout we have.
Very good. What's you haven't endorsed anybody, have you?
No, I have not.
Are you going to be are you going to have an active role in the vote getting and the caucus sort of shenanigans that ensue every 4 years here in Iowa?
Shenanigans? What do you mean by shenanigans?
I mean, that's a general term for how crazy and evocative the caucuses can be.
He's never been to a Republican one that is all nice, neat, and organized. If you've ever been to a Democratic caucus.
Very businesslike.
Yeah, I have heard that. I'll tell you, I almost got punched out at the 2008 caucus I went to.
Well, I will tell you, in the Democratic caucus, it's like herding cats and chickens, the way that now we do have a bit of news. You announced on Facebook yesterday that you were going to retire. You're not going to run again.
That is correct.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, it's devastating news to me. I mean, you're one of the few staunch conservative voices that are articulate enough to convince the other side. So is there anything I could say or do to get you to reconsider?
No, not at this point. My mind is made up. A lot of people, obviously been asking the question why, and there's no one particular reason. But one of the big reasons was, from the beginning, I never meant for this to be a career or a stepping stone or anything. I kind of sought it out as in the traditional citizen legislator. Get elected, go do some time, and then return home and turn the reins over to someone else. I think that's the best for our republic. I think that's where we have a lot of problems is people overstay their welcome.
Yeah, and that's true. Now, do you have anybody that's going to step up to take to try to put themselves in your shoes up there?
There is one candidate that's expressed interest. However, I believe I'll wait for him to do his announcement.
All right,
fair enough. Now, Representative Shaw, I gotta ask you a few questions about the what was happening before the show last week. We neglected to talk about it. There were a lot more things that we were getting to. We didn't get to it, but Governor Branstad had his condition of the state address last Tuesday, and I'm sure you were there, obviously. And some of the reporting and some of the interviews that have been given by members of Congress, whether it be Senator Gronstal or the speaker whose name is escaping me right now, who I'm sure that I would remember it if I wasn't on the air at this point.
Speaker Paulson.
Yeah, Speaker Paul. That's right. Speaker Paulson. Everyone's sort of congratulating themselves with how efficient and short, especially, this session is going to be. Do you have any thoughts about the agenda for this session coming up?
Well, obviously, to me, it's not a short session doesn't mean successful as far as I'm concerned. If we don't have the people's business done, I'm hearing from constituents that they're upset that the whole focus is let's pass a budget and go campaign. I don't believe that's why we're down there.
That sounds like and it sounds like that's coming from both sides. Do you agree?
I would agree. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That maybe the governor's more interested in, and here's a question. I don't want you to, and obviously get yourself in hot water by speaking ill of a same party governor, but it sounds to me, and maybe Doug, you can chime in and tell me if I'm way out of line here, but it sounds to me that Governor Branstad is more interested in running up the score than on Jack Hatch, who's polling way behind. I think that no bones about it. We can announce that Governor Branstad's going to win in November. But so this agenda has been called timid by his opponent. What would you say about that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last sentence?
Well, Jack Hatch called the governor's condition of the state address and his plan for this legislative session to be timid. Would you agree, disagree, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the only thing that I guess I wouldn't call it timid. I'd call it, well, I don't know, maybe non-aggressive. Maybe that's the same as timid. I don't know. There was one thing I did like with the governor's speech, and that was his home basing plan and calling to attract veterans to retire here in Iowa, or when they get out of service, come to Iowa. That is a great initiative because Iowa could stand this influx of these military people, especially retired. They come in, they have training, they have their retired pay, so they're bringing money with them. I hate to sound so callous about it, but that's just the fact, But they bring their families. They've already got a paycheck coming with them, families to put in the schools, and we just benefit from all their experience, training, and leadership. And anything that we can do to not only help veterans, but to help this become the most veteran-friendly state, I think is a great deal, and I do applaud the governor on that initiative, especially in light of what Washington has done in cutting retired pay and cutting back on health benefits that were supposedly earned, but now they want to cut. So it just shows the difference between state government and Washington.
Yes. Now I support that initiative 100%. I mean, even Lefty, being a lefty, supports our military, which is unusual for a lefty. Now, I got one question. The governor's comments was broadcast nationwide and was picked up as an attack upon the party leadership. Now, do you think that what Branstad said about A.J. Spiker specifically was an attack upon the GOP leadership?
Was that I know I've seen some headlines about something about the governor targeting or coming after the Tea Party or...
Well, yeah, he was...
I don't know the specific story. I don't know. I haven't been following that.
Okay.
I've just been focusing on the session here. So.
All right. And what kind of legislation is going to be coming up? Are you going to be introducing another personhood bill this time around?
Well, the personhood bill that is there, which is House File 138, it was introduced last year, It is in the Judiciary Committee. It's languishing there. I'm going to fight to get it pushed out of the committee. So a bill is good for both years of the session for the Assembly. So that bill is still active. I'm still working on getting a constitutional carry bill, meaning that, if you can legally own firearms, you're not a convicted felon and such, you should be able to keep and bear your arms without having to ask the government permission and getting a permission slip from them. So I'll be pushing constitutional carry. By the way, there's 5 states that have constitutional carry, and this isn't just a red state thing, because of all places, Vermont has constitutional carry. So, and there's no ill effects from it. There's no, spiking crime rates and murder rates and everything else. Everything the left wants to throw out there that it's so dangerous, it's just not true. So I will be pushing that, and also take another attempt at the Stand Your Ground bill. Our Iowa Constitution clearly, specifically lays out in the rights of persons that, every Iowan has the right to defend their life. And so I think this, we got an attorney general that sends stuff out to the counties and the cities and puts out mixed messages on, self-defense. So we're putting Iowans into jeopardy. They're not even knowing if they can defend themselves anymore, the way some of the court decisions are. So I think it's important to reaffirm what's already in our Constitution by passing the Stand Your Ground bill.
Okay, so it's going to be Stand Your Ground. Any interest in trying to get a castle law here in Iowa?
Well, that's basically the castle doctrine, the Stand Your Ground. But it goes further. The castle doctrine or the castle law is basically for your home. And what we're saying in Stand Your Ground is it doesn't matter if you're in your home, if you're in a shopping mall parking lot. It doesn't matter. You have the right to defend yourself.
All right. Well, that's pretty good information. Now, there's obviously interest in running for your spot. You haven't declared for anybody or against anybody at this time. What are your plans? What are you going to do after you're done being a representative? Because you've gained a lot of national attention with your stance on marriage and on abortion and life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just during the interim, since we got out of session last year, all summer and fall and this winter, I always worked as a police officer in my hometown of Lorenz. So I just plan on returning full time to the police department at this point. Okay.
Well, that sounds pretty good. Well, I know we're getting up close to your caucus time, and I really want to say thank you for calling in today. You've been a great friend of the show. You've been a great friend to the state of Iowa, and particularly conservative causes. You've earned the respect of Lefty from the right-hand viewpoint, and so that's a tough measure too, right there. So
I'll tell you what, I really enjoy coming on here because we can actually discuss things. And as a matter of fact, just out here in the foyer here where we're at, I was having a conversation with a gentleman, and he was remembering times when you could, when he was a young man, when you could sit around and everyone would argue and get angry and all this and that, but when all was said and done, they'd stand up and laugh and shake each other's hand. And he was lamenting the fact that, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you can do that anymore. I don't know why there's so much anger out there, and we've got to get a hold of ourselves. So I appreciate the fact that I can come on, express my views, and have this interaction and dialogue. It's really great.
Well, Representative, we sure appreciate it. Maybe after the session after the session closes and you're a former member of the General Assembly, you can come on the show sometime and we can maybe have that more metaphysical discussion about the state of politics. And I would ask the two of you to agree with me though that Iowa does it better than anywhere else in the country. I don't think that's too much of a stretch. What do you think about that, Representative?
No, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. There was a reason why I came back to Iowa after I retired from the Navy.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tom. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. Now, I know that segment went a little long. If we have a super friend of the show call,
you
have to take it.
Top billing.
Oh, yeah,
top
absolutely.
Billing.
right?
There are a few things that he said that I wanted to talk to him about, and so maybe we'll have him on midstream to see how those things are going. I have a. Do you want to do that after the break?
Yeah, let's do that after the break. Well, you're listening to Doc and Lefty every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. here on webcast1live.com. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Keeps our lights going, allows Lefty and I to keep bloviating all of our heart's content. We'll be back right after break. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Petrosian Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosh and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Lefty the Doc and Lefty here at webcast1live.com. We want to thank super friend of the show, Representative Tom Shaw from Lorenz, Iowa. He's over in Pocahontas doing the caucus thing tonight. And I hope that if you're not listening right now, that means you're at the caucus. And if you're going to watch us later, check us out on YouTube. It posts a couple hours after we get done talking here tonight. And leave some comments on the Facebook page, the YouTube page about your caucus experience, because we'd like to maybe pick a few of those to share next week, or maybe even if we know you or we want to get to know you, we can have you on and talk about it, because the caucuses are always fun, and I sure am.
We got Facebook too.
Yep, that's right. I mentioned that.
Either Blake Lubinas or Pat Petrosh, we're on there.
Yep, and it sure is a shame that we aren't able to go and participate, because I always have a lot of fun when I go. I know that you do too. Well, it's hard to have fun in a Republican caucus because there's not a lot of talking that goes on, but
it's a whole lot of fun.
At
least it's not like you're trying to bowl with cats or something like you're doing over at the Democrats. That's just insanity.
Let's have
I've seen more sanity on a locked psychiatric unit than I have ever at a Democratic unit.
I would rather have a few things that go on that are a little bit more interesting than a bunch of people with their shirts buttoned up to the neck talking about God knows what.
That's not even true. I'd show up to them. Do you see my shirt buttoned
but you
to the neck?
You don't get to talk to anybody. They put you in the back with the rest of the Democrats think are trolling the thing. So, but no, the representative mentioned his legislative agenda, and I want to talk about that a little bit, given the sort of go along, get along tenor that we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks. But I wanted to start with the condition of the state address, and we already had our show mapped out last week and what we wanted to talk about, so we didn't get to the speech itself. There were a bunch of different features in the speech I thought were interesting. I thought it was interesting that while there is this ramp up in renewable energies in Iowa, and Mid-American is investing a lot of money. I think $16 billion or some astronomical figure into the state to increase its wind turbine production and other things. That the governor only touched on that briefly. He mentioned the wind turbines, and I think maybe biodiesel, and that's it. It was like a line or two. And I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting that he made that. Well, not interesting, but I thought it was telling with the kind of session it looks like we're going to have, that the centerpiece of it, he called it the centerpiece of his legislative agenda for this session, is this home base initiative, bringing veterans into the state and making the state a veteran friendly state. And you're not hearing much complaining or arguing about that.
No,
as you wouldn't. That seems to be it. And talking about the cynical political viewpoint seems to be a pretty easy bipartisan thing to get done, because that seems to be the way it's going to go. So when I hear Tom Shaw talk about renewing his personhood charge, renewing the constitutional carry thing, the cast, all those different things that are very heavily partisan. I don't think that I'm insulting him by calling him a partisan Republican. I just wonder how successful he's going to be. What are your thoughts?
Well, we both know Tom. We both have a deep respect for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an everyman way, an everyman elegance is, I guess, the way I would say it, of being able to talk to people, straightforward and use a lot of logic and things like that. And for that reason, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, because trying to use logic on a liberal is really, it's not going to go anywhere. I think, that was a joke. I'm sorry. Lefty's not smiling over there, so I got to apologize.
I don't have a sense of humor.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, we know that because you're a liberal.
Right.
But the bottom line is I think if anybody's going to be able to do it, it's going to be Tom. The problem is the governor's been very direct ever since A.J. Spiker. I mean, remember, we've actually covered a couple of shows about the conflict between the governor and A.J. Spiker. The story was even picked up by the Washington Post. And they point out all the failures of that under A.J. Spiker, what has happened in the Iowa Republican Party. The bottom line is the governor is really going to try to keep controversial things to a minimum, because he doesn't want to disrupt things, because the governor's safe. Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds is not that safe. It's very possible that they could get another lieutenant governor in there, A.J. Spiker and the Paulites, for lack of a better term. So I think that if anybody's going to be able to get the personhood, the castle lob through, it's going to be Tom Shaw. The problem really is going to be who's going to be willing to get up there and take a controversial stand. Chris Hagenow, who I have a great deal of respect for, barely won his last election. I think he won by 13 votes or something like that. Now, might not be right, but still, it was really a very narrow margin. He can't afford another tight vote like that. And this might be, one of those things where if he's going to be forced to take a side, he's going to do what's going to be the least controversial in order to retain a seat. It's those kind of things that come up. Plus there's people in Chris Hagenow's situation all over where he's in a much more mixed district than other people. Than Tom. I mean, Tom can go up there, introduce these things, and we're going to get another clone of Tom coming out of there as a representative.
Well, Tom Shaw, and he this is his one and only term, correct? Or is this the second term for him?
I think this is the second
term. Okay. So, and that's 4 years in Iowa. So that's not a great deal of time. But yeah, there's going to be another person substantially to the political equality of Tom Shaw coming out of Northwest Iowa, especially in that neck of the woods that's close to where I grew up, and it's very, very conservative. It's interesting. Here's what's kind of funny to me, and maybe this is just a product of the political discourse that has happened in this country that's leached into the state over the last 10 years or so, is we're now criticizing as cynical ploys compromise legislation and split government. We have this piece like this veterans bill that the governor's going to introduce, and it's going to sail through. There's not going to be any opposition, and some of the reporting that I read about this does say that the population of veterans in Iowa is very, very small in relation to the rest of the country. And I think that it's not uncontroversial to say that any community could benefit from and to name things specifically, the logistical experience and the organizational experience and leadership abilities that veterans bring to the table. I think that would be a good asset for any community to have, and I think the governor has hit on something that's going to be, that's, even if it is sort of a political ploy, is going to benefit the state. So I want to make that very, very clear.
And it's going to create goodwill.
Yes,
for the Republican Party in general.
And that's not a bad point. And that's why you see a lot of Democrats piggybacking on it. And so I think that might neutralize it to a certain degree. But you're right; it's a Republican governor adding this. But you see, even me talking about it, as much as I support the legislation and the goals of the legislation, I can't help but mention that, boy, it just seems like a lot of weak sauce from Governor Branstad, and he's not doing anything that's too difficult. It's not a heavy political lift. I personally can't speak about a very good piece of legislation without nitpicking the cynical political points of it. And you're hearing that all the time
From both sides.
From both sides. And I'm wondering, maybe, and this is maybe what we talk about with Tom later on after the session gets done, but what is it about our politics now that has just infected it so that we can't even talk about a positive bipartisan piece of legislation without wondering what are the motivations behind it? Can we trust this legislation? Is it a Trojan horse, something else?
Oh, absolutely. I want to go over a little bit about what the Washington Post said about this thing with between Branstad and Spiker. Basically, they're spending $40,000 a month. That's the Iowa GOP, and they're only bringing in $5,500 a month. So the coffers are going down. 2, Branstad understands that you have to have a big tent to win, right? Doug Gross is a big supporter of Branstad. The problem is AJ Spiker really didn't have the experience, and it's not so much the fact of their philosophy, but their methods. They have hijacked the caucus system. They've kind of hijacked, the party establishment, and nobody likes that. When we saw videotape of people getting angry and telling these people, get out of here. Now, the problem is I've asked them all to come on the show. None of them will come on. So I'm not quite sure what's up with that. I mean, I've called, I've talked to them personally. They all give me the lip service. The problem is I think, when you have a conservative going up against a Paulite, and I'm a conservative, they get a little bit nervous, So we'll be back right after the break. We're going to continue to talk about caucusing. We want to thank all of our sponsors, including Polk County GOP, who is putting together the caucuses tonight. And believe it or not, it does cost some money to put these caucuses together. Will Rogers runs the Polk County GOP. And, of course, there's the number you can call, and polkgop.com. If you want to get out the caucuses, I believe caucuses go till 8 tonight. I can't be for certain.
I feel like they're going longer than that. They're starting at 7.
Yeah, but you can go out to polkcountygop.com and figure out where you're supposed to go for your caucus. We'll be back right after the break. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We talk a lot, or we have talked a lot on this show about the Republican Party. Iowa's let me kind of back up. Iowa's a very interesting state politically. Not just because it's ignored every 4 years until the president comes to town, or the eventual president comes to town if you're a Democrat. I mean,
yes.
The Republicans admittedly have whiffed a few of these last few times, most of these last few times, but it happens. It's not a sage predictor. We also didn't nominate Bill Clinton back in '92, so the Democrats did, not Iowa. So, I think was it Bill Bradley? Is that who the Democrats nominated back then? So. Anyway, it's not important. But we talk a lot. The Republican Party to me in Iowa is this fascinating entity that everybody in power really for the last however long has been what we call the quote-unquote establishment Republican. And from the Democratic side, you see that establishment Republican move more and more to the right, pulling Democrats, establishment Democrats, more and more to the right as well. I feel like what was conservative 30 years ago is now what the liberals are being tagged with today. And I feel like the party has moved a lot. But to fill in behind them, you have these folks who are led by the Paulites, as you've been calling them, who are dissatisfied with the party leadership, the party structure, and that's why they've taken over the party apparatus, not doing the best job financially, as you talked about in the last segment, and really run afoul of Governor Branstad. He has made no secret of his dissatisfaction with the party leadership. My question, though, to you, as somebody who knows the Republican Party in Iowa better than I do, certainly, and better than a lot of people that I've talked to about it, these folks aren't going away. They have now made the Ron Paul sort of folks are not going away. They're making up as more and more substantial unit of the Republican Party in Iowa, so that you need them to do anything, especially nationally. That's the big key. But you have a supremely popular Republican governor who is about to become the longest serving governor in the country. So you got that legacy to deal with. Who is introducing very, very non-controversial bipartisan pieces of legislative agenda or legislation into his agenda for this term. How do you push the Tea Party mold to a governor who has no time for it whatsoever? And does that mean that they're just going to fall in line behind him? What do you think?
Well, you got to keep in mind, and this is one of the things that happens when you start talking about, factions within a party. Democrats have their factions. Hell, you can't tell a socialist from a liberal, but there's a difference. And the problem is looking from the outside in, a lot of people can't tell a difference between a Paulite and a Tea Partier. Well, you have to keep in mind, Tea Partier mainly is just fixated on the financial aspects. They're very financially conservative. The problem with the Paulites is that they're fiscally conservative, but very socially liberal. And I hate putting that kind of label out there, but, they don't care what you do in your own house. They support gay marriage, support legalization of pot, which, I support medicalization of pot, but that's a different thing than legalization, right? And they have all these social things where they're very liberal. The problem is, the Tea Partiers they don't want to really get involved in the gay marriage debate. And I know their name has been drug into the gay marriage debate over and over and over. And you have a lot of people that have gone out and hijacked the Tea Party the same way the Paulites have hijacked the Republican Party. The problem is you have people that have no idea of how an apparatus works in charge of the apparatus. And they don't understand what it takes to win an election. What they do understand is that they are rebels. And this is this is just a general theme. If you're the rebel and you finally get a hold of the country, invariably you're going to screw it up because you don't understand what it takes to make the machine operate. You understand what it takes to break the machine, but you don't understand what it takes to operate the machine. And there is a difference. And I think even you can say, if your whole job was to be the rebel, when you're finally the one in charge, it's going to take a while to figure out how you keep the apparatus going.
Well, I don't think there's much wrong with that statement. We had an Articles of Confederation in this country before we had a constitution. You're seeing South Sudan fall into chaos because they couldn't maintain their government, and they had a long, bitter conflict before the country was born just a few years ago. So I would agree tentatively with that statement. I find the problem with the Republican Party to be much more fundamental. And I believe that it splits on, and I don't know, social issue just seems so played out because everybody is concerned with everything in politics. There's just a matter of degree. And I feel like the folks that are very, very concerned with things like gay marriage or abortion or what have you on both sides, aside from missing the forest for the trees, I feel like they say a lot weirder things, at least that play weirder on the Republican side. For example, the pro-life rally that we went to all those months ago, where you heard elected officials who have a legislative history and have accomplishments to speak of, saying things like, we're never going to get our fiscal house in order until we ban abortion. For most folks, now there are all sorts of things you could talk about to backfill that argument, but for most folks, they kind of dog whistle it. Huh? What What does that mean? What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense to me. And it's throwing those things out there without any kind of real popular support and so you have the folks, the Republicans that don't have that as deep in their forefront going, well, we just let the adults speak, and that creates resentment, that creates this split. So I feel like it's a lot more fundamental maybe than you are giving credit to it.
Well, and I would agree with that. There is a fundamental split between the Paulites who, in their own platform said, well, if you need to get an abortion, get an abortion. There are people out there, and I'm one of them, think it's horrific that you even have to wind up in that position. And it's even more horrific that you're going to complicate one problem with another one. And it's one of these things where, if you believe so deeply, you have to be able to strike a compromise somewhere. And I know there are people out there, Steve Deace, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, always say don't compromise. Well, the bottom line is you're going to have to start compromising because the way the absolutists are, the approach they're taking, nothing is changing. You get the left digging in their heels. And as Lefty and I have shown on this show several times, there is a common ground where you can agree to most of what you want to get. That's the bottom line.
Do you think I'm going to step in there because something just occurred to me. Do you think it's more of a culture of winners and losers than it is of ideologies? That, hey, it doesn't matter what the ideology is necessarily as long as my side wins.
Well, and I believe that's part of it because Americans have always traditionally loved a winner and hated a loser.
That's true,
and that's traditional way back when. One of the big problems is social media. If you just look at you've even talked about the nasty Facebook rants the liberals put on my stuff. How are you going to have a conversation with somebody who's, that much of an ideologue? How are you going to break through that barrier when anytime you try to have at least a halfway decent conversation, all they do is just rip you apart and personally attack you?
Well, everything that happens on my wall is mostly conservative, so I don't know if it.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
If these people were standing here face to face with me or you, do you think they would actually say the horrible stuff they say to either one of us?
Well, of course not.
Absolutely, and that's part of the problem. And then you inflame passions, things get unreasonable, nobody wants to give in, and you have all this built up resentment. That's one of the key things. Now, I do a lot of international stuff. And if you watch how the Arab Spring is played out, what they do is they use social media to get everybody stirred up. And once the people are stirred up and things start to crumble, then the real radicals take over. Because then the regular people are going like, well, hold on, this isn't really what we wanted. But it's too late. The system is already cracked and broken. And this has been happening over and over and over. It's happening now in Ukraine. It's happening in Syria. Syria, that's the main way they communicate is through social media. The Egyptian uprising is directly, they directly state it was social media that did this. So the problem is it's really easy to polarize yourself when you don't have to face the person across from you and say these awful things. And I believe that is really a strong thing because, I said something controversial. It went all over the world. That was the only way I could get any attention. So I believe the third thing down is the media plays a big part of this.
Well, the media, and especially...
Let's take a break right now. We'll come back. Yeah. We'll start with the media. We'll come back. Listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. Don't forget to go out and go caucus. And not do caucus, go caucus. And you listen to us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're talking about
The caucuses.
the kumbaya aspect of politics that the Iowa caucuses tend to bring out. And if anybody's been to a caucus, they know that that's kind of tongue in cheek. We like our politics unfiltered and rough and tumble here in Iowa. Not necessarily as rough and tumble as other parts of the country, as evidenced by the I don't know what you'd call the stupid non-story that's now turning into a cover-up in New Jersey. I was talking to Doc over the break, and he didn't want. I brought it up, and he said, no, it's Iowa politics and what's wrong with the Republicans and why the Democrats are awesome is a much more important story to tell. But if you want to talk about New Jersey, we can talk about New Jersey. And I'm so tired of this thing that but we got to spend a few minutes on it because I think there are it's apropos to what we've been talking about. And I sort of wonder if we're not going to if our governor is not our very, very out in front governor is not going to show Chris Christie how to deal with power after he gets elected. Here's the parallel I'm going to draw. We've got Terry Branstad, who is going to walk away with this election handily. Jack Hatch is not a slouch politically. He's been around for a long time, but he's not going to beat a popular Republican governor in 2014. It's just not going to happen. And so Terry Branstad, I think, he's not necessarily the one to run up the score, but he's not going to shy away from it either. He's going to win handily. He is not going to turn around and start doling out punishments for things that for the people that didn't support him, who he didn't need their support to win anyway. Sort of like what's being accused of the Christie administration that has been sort of proven by the emails that have come out that there may be a cover up now because there's guys taking the fifth and it just won't die. The story, traffic in New Jersey is not something that's very interesting here in Iowa. I get very frustrated with traffic. It took me 3 hours to get home last week during the snowstorm.
It was during a snowstorm.
It really did, but shutting down lanes on 9/11 is a little bit of a tough kind of thing, I suppose, if you're from that part of the country. What do you think about this? We'll spend 5 minutes talking about it. What do you think about this whole story?
Well, I think it's, keep in mind what the stories were. The NSA spying scandal, that was all over. Benghazi just won't go away despite the liberals' best efforts. You have the Lone Survivor movie coming out, and that was creating a lot of buzz. And a lot of anti-Obama buzz, which I was kind of surprised about because it doesn't mention anything at all about Obama during that movie. And so what are we – and plus Chris Christie's
the Lone Survivor happened under Bush, right?
Yeah. So – but it was generating anti-Obama buzz. I'm just letting you know what was going on. And so here you have Chris Christie, who people are thinking might be running for president, who really could be a threat to the Democrats because of his – I don't know, I want to say more moderate stances, but it's more – reasoned stances, instead of just saying, hey, listen, you're bad and I'm good. He's much more like, well, hold on, we have a state to run. And the problem is, and this is what you see whenever the left starts to suspect that that the right has a strong candidate, they start to dismantle them. I think this is what this comes back to is the media going, well, hold on. We have all these things going on that's negative for our president. And now we can shift the focus to Chris Christie. I think it's a big deal made out of nothing. And just look at, Mark Jacobs. Mark Jacobs is making a very strong push in eastern Iowa. Next thing you know, he's on the front page of the Register, that's today, saying, well, hold on, I was for cap and trade in 2007 when he was head of an energy company. Well, that's just going to inflame the base on the right. So I think that a lot of this is a lot of hooey over nothing because, one, Chris Christie's already apologized, which in the liberal terms, if he was a liberal, would already be forgotten and swept underneath the rug. 2, he apologized personally. And 3, everybody associated with it and everybody was fired immediately as soon as he found out. None of this, not like the Obama administration, where if there's a giant controversy, they still have their job. They just keep them away from the spotlight.
Oh, like Van Jones?
Well, yeah, but he didn't get fired. Van Jones didn't get fired.
He absolutely got fired.
He didn't get fired. He was elected to leave.
He was kicked out. He was kicked out. Or Acorn, one non-scandal, and they don't get federal funding anymore. So let's not start.
Acorn was a big scandal. See, and that's the thing. If it's a liberal thing, then it's no big deal.
No, if it's a liberal,
Acorn was a big deal.
If it's a liberal organization, it gets morphed into a big deal. That's what happened.
Well, this is a Republican governor with a bridge being morphed into a big deal.
You've heard concern. Oh, I don't think that the whole controversy is a big deal. Let's not start making it about liberals and conservatives because it's just
the media.
It's just stupid. And that every controversy surrounding the president is legitimate. That's where I have to get off the train with you.
Okay.
Because we both know that's not true. All of this, you're starting to see more bashing of Michelle Obama for turning 50 and having a birthday party. People have birthday parties.
Not like this.
Laura Bush had a birthday party like that, guaranteed. So,
yeah, but she could afford it on her own. I mean, people paid to show up. They didn't have the government pay for it.
She didn't have the government. Never mind. Okay, she didn't have the government pay for it either. So whatever. You have all of this. You're talking about lone survivor, something that didn't happen under Obama, and Obama's getting flack for it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's real and what's not. The thing that Chris Christie, I don't think is going to have much of the story about Chris Christie now is turning from this one act into whether it's a culture, and that's what they're investigating. They're investigating more things, and it's because I think they have a Democratic Senate and a Republican House there or something.
Yes.
And they have subpoena power, and they're doing these investigations. And you hear these Democratic senators in New Jersey tell folks, I watch the liberal media, so to speak, telling them, hey, we're not making accusations. We're looking for information. So if you want to come and talk about what happened or talk about your experience or talk about, even if there's nothing to talk about, we want to know. Because if there's nothing here, we can just put it to bed. And to me, that's the most responsible thing I've heard about all this right from the get-go, because you have conservatives trying to sweep it under the rug. And if it was political retribution, it has to be talked about. Even if it's not, him killing somebody, it still needs to be talked about. You have the liberals on the other side saying, well, hold on a second. This is a bully who needs to be put in his place. We all know the truth is someplace in the middle. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and that's, but we were talking a little bit earlier about how you can't have a decent conversation with anybody anymore. And the problem is you actually have to be able to talk. And then the second thing is you have to be able to talk about it in more depth than just a meme on Facebook. I was actually looking through here, and of course, my Facebook updated, so I can't find it. But one of my liberal friends from Minnesota puts on here 13 reasons why traditional marriage is a complete, BS. And I was looking at that. I'm going like, there's no way that you could stand up there in front of somebody and debate this particular meme and have any chance of success, And it's one of those things where I go back to people are no longer informed the way they should be. Back in the day, everybody would get the paper and read it. Now all people do is read the headlines. That's why I think Lefty and I get along so well, is because we're both students of politics, and we read about a bunch of this stuff, and we learn about a bunch of this stuff. We're going to be back right after the break. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're here every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com. Please go caucus, polkcounty.gop.com has your precinct sites. We'll be back right after the break.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You know, in this last segment, generally on this show, we end on just terrible, awful things because we talk about news and
Terrible,
politics.
awful things.
And so in that vein, just to mention a few things that are going on. Syria is not getting any better. I remember we spent almost a month talking about Syria. It's getting worse. The Taliban came out saying that they can't wait for us to leave because they're going to come back stronger. Now you hear other reports saying that they're just blowing smoke, that the organization is not as strong, and these are coming from the government itself. So who's to say what's going on there? But it certainly does sound a lot like it's all kind of going to I mean, you had what was his face, the foreign minister in Israel calling John, I mean, that's our ally saying really offensive things about the United States. But a lot of this, I mean, you have to keep in mind, you have to keep in mind that Republicans, for the most part, conservatives, do better in foreign policy than domestic policy, and it's the opposite for liberals. And the problem... Afghanistan war, Iraq war.
Both of them won by Republicans. And Republicans deal. Yeah, you're gonna.
Won. We're still in Afghanistan, my friend.
Yeah, that's what happens. Well, hold on. We beat them both.
The Iraq
just
war
now the nation building
has been considered the biggest foreign policy blunder of the last 50 years.
Well, by who?
By everybody.
Not by everybody.
By everybody.
Not by everybody.
Bob Gates certainly didn't like it. His book is rife with criticism of the Iraq war.
Well, of Obama's execution of it, that's for sure.
Obama didn't execute the Iraq war, actually. Don Rumsfeld has come out and criticized the Iraq war.
Here's the problem. We declared war in Iraq. We went over there. We beat them. We declared that part of it done, and then we went to nation building.
Oh, okay. Well,
right? There's a difference. I mean, if you want to look at, wars that have been started by Democrats that are still going on, we can look at, Vietnam and Korea. Those are still wars going on. The problem is how you define it. So and that's not really my point. My point is that Barack Obama has been a dismal failure in his foreign policy. And some of the things he's done, particularly this Iran thing, really has blown up in his face.
Iran has not blown up in his face.
It has.
It really hasn't. At Fox News it may have, but every analyst that you listen to on every independent news channel says that the deal is a good one and it's a good start.
Well, every liberal one, I would agree with that.
A liberal one? The BBC is liberal now?
Yes, the BBC
okay, so we can't trust
liberal.
So we can't trust anybody that doesn't agree with Roger Ailes. That makes a lot of sense.
No,
that's exactly what you're saying.
Well, there are liberal papers out there that disagree with the BBC. One of them is the Kiev Post.
This is the BBC. This is the BBC giving interviews with folks who are in the know. Analysts that are looking to this from the outside that aren't connected to any American media entity. If we can't, and this is the biggest problem, we are now at the point where we can't trust media entities to give us any sort of unbiased account of the actual facts of something.
And that is true.
You are getting here are the facts. The Iranians are getting $500 million a month for 6 months in sanction relief lifted for stopping all uranium production. And if they don't, because there are in fact inspections, you said on the show that there aren't any. There are in fact inspections, and if those inspections turn up uranium production, the sanctions as a conditional deal snap back. You have the Senate introducing legislation supported by 16 Democrats that will guarantee the United States enter a war with Iran if that goes through, and that the entire deal is done.
So let's just rephrase exactly what you said. Iran gets $6 billion if they stop uranium production for 6 months, or $3 billion. Didn't you say $500 million?
$500 million a month for 6 months.
For 6 months. So they get $3 billion to stop production for 6 months. I'd take that deal because after 6 months, then what happens? And that's part of the problem with this Iran deal. There's nothing at the end.
I see.
There's no way
because
to sit there and continue.
I forgot we stopped negotiating. No, that's not true.
Well, so we're going to negotiate some more? What would be their incentive to negotiate, get back to the table? Nothing. They already got $3 billion. And now that's an extra $3 billion they can use, one, to fight Stuxnet, the virus, and two, to increase their productivity. You know, the thing is if you're going to engage in sanctions, you have to keep the sanctions in place till you get what you want. Because if you
we got what we wanted. That's the thing. We got them to the table. We got them to the table. Listen,
they were already at the table.
This is your problem. This is your problem.
The Iraq War got them to the table.
That's what got them to the table. Lindsey Graham said back in 2012 that sanctions were designed to put pressure on Iran to get them to the bargaining table. So what do we give them once we get them to the bargaining table? More sanctions. That's not how you negotiate with anybody. If I tried to do that in my practice, I'd be laughed out of the room.
Well, this is what it's like.
Negotiation's a two-way street.
It's like, this is what it'd be like. It's like you saying, geez, Doc, I don't like the way that you practice medicine, and so I'm going to give you $3 billion if you quit practicing medicine for 6 months. And then at the end of that, we're going to negotiate.
Not at the end of it. They're negotiating a long-term deal. This is the bridge to get started on this.
Yeah, I'm going to take my $3 billion and go, great, I just won't do that. And then when we come back to the table, I'll go, I'm still going to practice medicine. There's no incentive for them to do anything. I mean, you have to have a carrot and a stick. You can't just keep throwing carrots in front of the horse. At some point, he goes, I have enough. I mean, that's the art of negotiation. As a lawyer, you should know that.
And you're mischaracterizing the deal. You're presupposing that this stopping uranium gets started back up after 6 months. That's not in the deal either.
The only time they came to the table was when, and this is when they were not saying we're not going to let the UN IAEA come in. We're not going to let them in. We invaded Iraq. Suddenly they went, all right, we'll let them in. Short of force, that's the only way they're going to.
That's interesting because the Iraq that happened. Let's see, it's 2014.
That happened within a year of our invasion of Iraq,
and nothing happened. Nothing. I forgot that we got. What were the parameters? What were the parameters of that deal? What were the parameters of that deal that was struck back? Oh, there weren't any because there wasn't a deal that was struck.
They let the UN inspectors in. They had let the EU inspectors in, and then when they figured out that we weren't going to go pound them, then they went, well, we're going to kick them all out again.
That darn Barack Obama, who was president back then. Anyway, we're closing in on the end of the show. As usual, Doc has no concept of what's actually happening in the world.
Yeah,
but
because
that's
Lefty
okay.
likes sticking his head in the sand, going, "Well, I hope if we give them $3 billion, they'll be nice."
Yeah, and
they'll be nice. They won't make any more uranium after that.
Doc's not happy until we invade and attack every country that disagrees with us.
Well, that's not true either. I'm just saying, if you negotiate, you don't go, "Hey, here's $3 billion. I hope you quit." I mean, that's just idiocy. I mean, when everybody, when even the French step in and say, "Hey, listen, we can't agree to this,"
they already signed on to it.
Well, but not initially. We sweetened the deal with them somehow. That's the thing.
They agreed to it. The Germans signed on. The Germans were very skeptical. All the UN security plus Germany signed on to this deal. Independent independent foreign policy analysts from around the world have said that it's not enough, but it's a good start. And it's the first good start that we've had. And a Democratic president and a Democratic Secretary of State got it done, and you can't stand that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in.
No, that isn't true at all. You're not getting
tonight.
The last word on me this time.
We're running out of time.
Because I have just as many people on the other side say that this is a terrible deal, including our allies. The French and Germans didn't jump on board immediately.
They signed the deal.
Only after a lot of pressure from the U.S. with a lot of extra things coming in.
They
may have inked the deal, but we twisted their arm.
Signed it.
We're going to have to wait to see how this turns out.
We are going to have to wait. That's true.
We're done for today because you're not getting the last word on this.
When you have a contract
I know how to negotiate. If you negotiated like this with your clients, you wouldn't be in business for very long. I know that.
No, you know what? I do very well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for listening.
We appreciate
Lefty
it.
is wrong, like sticking his head right somewhere else.
We'll see you next week.
Shaw, and I love these guys, both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love
them! Both of them!